Greetings across the world to one and all. That's right. We are live in, well, every country, theoretically, because you can just click on it wherever you are. But we have listeners in about 50 countries. Why? Because we are the Media Beat. It's episode 79, and I'm joined, as ever, by two of the most informed and eloquent voices in the world of media. You know who they are, Maureen Kerr and Claire Tavernier. And as usual, they have a ton of things they want to talk to you about. Exciting Studio A24, which some of you will have heard about, is going to be our deep dive, but we will also be talking about AI companies. Are they overvalued? Question. We're going to be talking about the big hit that Netflix hopes it's got on its hands with the biggest ever release of a film that we will be revealing, or Claire will be. Maureen has been up in Edinburgh on the fringe, and she reports without a fringe. She has a lovely side-swept hairstyle on what's been going on there. And we'll be talking about Threads and Netflix and MSNBC corporate rebrandings, a good idea or a total disaster. You make up your mind. But we must start. It's a Claire deep dive today. And the Studio A24, which she's going to talk about. And she's going to talk something called the Anti-4 quadrant, which I've got no idea what it means. Very excited about this one, Claire. I know you are too. Take it away.
Thank you, Oliver. Well, we've talked about A24 before on the podcast, obviously. It's an independent film and TV production and distribution company. We've talked about it when we've talked about awards, when we've talked about Cannes, talked about box office. But recently, there's a very long article, very interesting article that's come out in the New Yorker called A24's Empire of Auteurs, which goes through the history of the company and a lot of it. And it's really given us an impetus to start looking at it, perhaps both from a creative perspective, but later on with Maureen also, as we tend to do, from a financial perspective. So what is A24? It is a studio, as you said. It's a film and TV production and distribution company. It's primarily known for films, specifically author-driven, low-budget films, although it's also increasingly doing big ones. It was funded in 2012 by three gentlemen, Daniel Katz, David Fenkel, and John Hodges. And here's a factoid for you. It is named for an Italian motorway that one of them, can't remember which one, was driving through as he came up with the idea of the studio. And so it's meant to be a metaphor for forging new creative paths. Anyway, as of 2025, this obviously worked. So as I said, they were founded in 2012. As of 2025, they've had 76 Oscar nominations and 21 wins. Which is not bad. It's a good track record. And they've won Best Picture twice, one for Moonlight in 2016, which was one of their very early successes and quite emblematic of who they were. And the second one in 2022 for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Another interesting stat, which I love, their US box office market share has grown from 0.26% in 2013, obviously tiny, to almost 3% in 2025. So it's really becoming a powerhouse in terms of, in its niche as an indie studio. Some of the films that you may have heard about include Hereditary, Midsommar, Moonlight, as mentioned, The Lighthouse, Everything Everywhere All at Once. But also recently they've expanded into TV, and you may well have heard of Euphoria and Beef, two very successful series in the last couple of years that they have produced. Now, Oliver, you mentioned that it was the anti-4 quadrant model. We talked about 4 quadrants when we were talking about F1, the movie. I think that's when we mentioned it. And that's the concept of movies that target all 4 audience quadrants, meaning male, female, and under and over 25. And that's the opposite of what they do. They focus on very niche, culturally engaged viewers, especially younger. They go for very bold, very unconventional storytellings, and then they go for very unique and viral marketing campaign. They absolutely champion diverse voices. You will have seen that from the list of movies that I've said, but I'll talk about some names later on. They take risks, but they tend to go with relatively small budgets. So their sweet spot so far, but that's changing, has been around 15 to 20 million per budget. As I said, very, very innovative marketing, lots of digital platforms, very much invested in niche communities. And actually, because of all this, they have grown into a brand that you will find people who say, I'll go and see it because it's an A24 movie. They have now that cachet where people believe in the brand as much as they believe in the creator that they support. Now, one of the comparisons that's very often made, but that they don't like very much, is with Miramax. Now, Miramax, you may well remember, was founded in 1979 by the Weinstein brother, Harvey and Bob. Actually, I learned while researching this that it was named for their parents, Miriam and Max, which I did not know, which is kind of sweet in a weird way. But it has been very much today discredited by the whole Harvey Weinstein story that we've all heard. So now to tell somebody that they're the new Miramax is a bit like telling someone that they're the new Cosby Show. There's a bit of a backhanded compliment in there somehow. But where they are the spiritual here is that, they have absolutely found that balance between auteur cinema and mainstream success. That being said, Miramax was primarily known for their, what can I say, white male stable of auteurs, emblematic, obviously, Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, but also Gus Van Sant, Steven Soderbergh, Anthony Minghella, Kevin Smith, Neil Jordan, Woody Allen, Jim Jarmusch, Todd Haynes, Martin Scorsese, Danny Boyle. They didn't really do like women and, people of the global majority. It wasn't really their focus. There was obviously a timing thing as well, but still, even for them, that was not their focus. I think it's absolutely fair to say that A24 has not followed that template, and they've very, very much embraced diversity, socially conscious themes, and again, this digital era marketing. Another comparison that's made quite often, and I think we mentioned on this podcast, is with Neon. Neon was founded in 2017, and that has very much, it's kind of positioned itself from the beginning as a Me Too A24. It's tried to do a lot of the same things and use the template. It's gone into more of non-English language films, more so than A24, which remains focused on English language. But Neon has been also very successful. They have very much invested in awards. That's their thing. Neon have won 6 consecutive Palme d'Ors at Cannes, which is pretty impressive. And so they haven't really managed to grow to the level that A24 has grown to, because in 2025 it's now been valued. It's valued. Maureen will go into the financials, but it's now been valued at $3.5 billion. So it is actually becoming a mini major. It has expanded into television. It has expanded into Broadway. It has expanded into larger films. It's taken bigger financial risks. They haven't all paid out, but they're okay with that. That's the life of a film studio. They are at a bit of a pivotal moment. Can they grow and still continue to be true to what made them so unique? Some of their key authors have started moving to smaller studios because they are slightly worried about the size that they're becoming, but equally, there's something very attractive in working with being able to fund larger movies by directors that are growing. So I think it's going to be a very interesting few years. I'm going to hand over to Maureen to talk about their financial and funding strategy, because one of the things that has, I think, but you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that has characterized them is their absolute desire to stay independent and to not rely on Hollywood capital. But Maureen, tell us more about how they're funded.
Wow, that was a fascinating history there. I didn't know about the Miramax. That's really interesting in terms of the name, the origin of the name. That's interesting. Yeah. So I love A24, and as you've rightly pointed out, it's more of a logo that says this is a matter of taste. This is a promise of taste. This is going to be a great film. But what struck me as well, just building on what you were saying, is that they've really got this exclusive club. So aside from all the other sort of ventures that they've moved into, they've got a fan club of around, I think it's like 100,000. And that enables members to have exclusive rights and access and go to premieres and whatnot. And I think also that there's some folks out there known for their tattoo, which is the A24 brand. I thought you were going to pick that up, but it was quite funny. That just makes me
It's
smile.
really weird.
It's really weird to have an A24, black and white. Anyway, let's get to the capital. But
especially if you know that it's just an Italian motorway, it makes it
exactly.
really weird.
Well, now people will know that. So shame on them. Shame on them. But I think what's compelling is, which you've just sort of, I think touched on, is can they retain that fantastic independent vibe, and will that scale with the capital injection and what comes with that capital injection? So you're absolutely right to say it's now worth around about 3.5 billion, apparently, with that last round of investment, and that was in 2024, led by the Thrive Capital. And that particular private equity house is owned by, I'm not quite sure, Claire, if you were aware of this, but the Joshua Kushner, who is the younger brother of Gerard Kushner, and now has given that last sort of round of capital input, is now got a seat on the board. So going to be very influential and very operational, let's put it, or certainly will have a say in how they scale up. And there's definitely an expectation of this capital and at this valuation to act and possibly behave like a mini major. So it's going to be really interesting to see that discussion and that round of board meetings, and how they want to take this strategically. But I think the Kushner folks are not. They are investors in other media and entertainment businesses, so they're not shy from, doing the right thing, and may do the right thing by A24. They've got Skims, which is the Kim Kardashian's direct-to-consumer brand. They've also got investments in other tech players like Instagram, SpotX, and Spotify. So they're kind of in that sort of technology and entertainment and brand environment. So hopefully they can scale it up at the same time trying to retain that independence. But don't know. As we know, this is Hollywood, and it'll be a shame that this particular lovely auteur-driven and promise of taste and a guarantee when you go and see one of their films, it'll be a good film. Whether or not they'll be able to sort of retain that status of an indie, so to speak, or an independent with that amount of capital that we then needs to start to deploy. And I think the first up is the video game adaptation of Elden Ring. So they're now really moving into the big budget environment. So let's see. But I mean, this is Hollywood, and investors love Hollywood. We're going to have to watch closely to see whether or not they're able to retain that lovely status of in good taste. But yeah, I think A24 is going to be a fascinating story to watch. But yeah, Thrive Capital would also expect some good returns on its investment.
And they've done really well in breaking even on a lot of their movies overall. Much better than traditionally studios do, especially with the output that they have. And I will say the three founders have maintained a very low profile, which is unusual for this industry and quite pleasing. So yeah, no, I think they've done everything right so far, and I think a lot of people are rooting for them. Let's see where that goes now.
And I think similarly, not many people know where that capital is coming from and who's funding this. So that's interesting as well. Yeah, they're not making a Hollywood drama out of this capital injection or series of rounds. Anyway,
and of course, finally, they're giving a bit of work to that much maligned demographic, the white middle class male. So that's all good news. So congratulations to them. Thank you for that. So much facts, very dense. Very dense, I found that one, and that's in a good way, obviously. Plenty of facts and food for thought. What a brilliant deep dive! Thank you so much. Well done, and maybe we'll have a revisit of that as well at some point. So that was A24, which we've also got an A24 in the UK. Can't realise why they couldn't have used that, but anyway, perfectly good A road, serving people every day. Obviously, with
Come on,
certain
it's a
restrictions.
little bit sexier when it's an Italian motorway. You're
Exactly.
driving on the other
Exactly.
side of the road.
Italian
You
motorways
know,
are sexy now. Now I understand that Italian.
Ferrari,
I know Italians have style, but
convertible.
to say one
There's
of their
such a thing.
roads is more stylish than an English road is well. I tell you what. Thank goodness for Brexit. I said very, very, very sarcastically.
Did
No,
you
He did
really
not
say
say
that?
that.
no,
That
Did you
is
say
going
it's
that?
to be
That's being
edited out.
biggest
edited. That's
disaster.
being edited.
So
Yeah.
I get we'll end that. Well, no, I've just spent a week in France and I was
It
so
is
in love. I'm on
poor Oliver
Duolingo. Sorry.
is feeling that we're being very mean to white
Yeah.
middle-aged men again. We have to be
Well, it's
careful
worth
about
it.
that.
It's about
They're
time.
fragile.
It's about time I understood how it felt, frankly. It's very, very good for my education. So no, I don't mind at all. No, no, very much not on the Brexit side. So that was a deep dive on the A24, a very sexy piece of tarmac in Italy, apparently. And now we move on to In the News. One of our most well-travelled reporters, she's just off to Hungary soon to report on stuff out there. Maureen Kerr is at the NASDAQ headquarters in, I'm assuming it's New York. You are hearing rumours, Maureen, that maybe potentially there is some sort of bubble in the AI investment world brewing and that companies may be overvalued. What's the story and what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, so there's been a lot of talk this week about whether or not there's a there's an AI boom and a bubble to be burst. Where I think the Guardian kicked that off with a little article about questioning whether or not these inflated valuations could send the stock market into freefall. I thought that was a bit dramatic on the part of the Guardian. But that said, even Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, I don't think he checked this with his own PR department. Well, if he didn't, he should have. Has admitted also that the industry feels a little overheated. So I would definitely counsel him in having speaks with said PR department about that. Look, yeah, no doubt, valuations are definitely eye popping. You've got Nvidia that's nearly worth, I don't know, $3 trillion. I can't even imagine a number of zeros. Can't even imagine a number of, bills that represents. But anyway, they're briefly overtaken in valuation Apple and Microsoft at various parts of the year. OpenAI, which clearly is only so far, a one main product, has also been valued at hundreds of billions. Anthropic, as we saw, and I think we spoke about on one of the podcasts, it's only 3 years old and has also raised a significant amount of money, 10 billion. I mean, we've just been talking about A24 as a major sort of studio, an independent studio, and they're only valued, and they've got product, and they've got tangible assets and intangible assets at only less than sort of 3 billion. So, it's really hard not to look at these numbers and wonder if the hype has run out of the sort of business reality. And everyone's likening it to .com, that boom and bust that happened in the 2000s or just the end of the noughties. But yeah, there is probably some merit in saying there's some overvaluations. But look, this is not, in my view, and I will be stand corrected and probably be challenged on this by Claire later. It's probably where I think the profitability lens will help to shape our thinking around this. Not all AI is overheated. When we look at the infrastructure layer, i.e., when we talk about chips, cloud, data centers, and companies like Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they are definitely plowing in a lot of money, 30, 40 billion a year into new capacity. But guess what? That's real capacity, that's real cash, and it's turning a profit. So, but if we go further up the tech stack, like OpenAI or Anthropic, which really has those foundation models, they are quite what we would call capital heavy and infrastructure dependent category. But history, if we remember, will dictate to us that it takes at least 10 years for those types of businesses to turn a profit. We only have to look at Tesla, Spotify, Uber, and others that have taken probably 14 to 18 years to turn a profit. All these upfront R&D costs are really needing the thirst, that they are very thirsty for cash, and delivery costs are so high. We know that. But in contrast, if you look at, say, more the ad-driven platforms like Google or Facebook, again, they reached break even practically within maybe 3 to 7 years. So, and Netflix the same. Disney Plus, probably in the middle, 4 or 5 years, 6 years. So I think people are just getting a little carried away and putting AI in one bucket. We know that there's infrastructure, we know that there's applications, and we know that there's product. I think where the attention should go and where there probably will be action is in the productivity tools, maybe some media apps and a few other in the application level. I think if they don't yet turn a profit in the next couple of years, they'll either close or they'll either be gobbled up by one of the other majors. The other one that I know everyone is throwing out and saying, what the hell is that? And that's Palantir. Palantir is definitely surfed the AI wave and is probably 70 to 80 billion market cap at the moment, despite it's only 2 to 3 billion in revenues and very, very thin margins. And it brands itself as the AI first defense and enterprise firm. I think it was Bill Cohen, who's an ex-banker, said it's trading at hundreds of PE and nobody bloody knows what it does. And yet it's valued as an AI rocket ship. So I think there definitely is, is there a bubble? Maybe in parts, but I think if a correction comes, it won't be like .com collapse. It will look more like consolidation, infrastructure will probably stay profitable, but it'll be those handful of smaller companies, maybe the foundation models and these smaller apps-based businesses, I think that will probably not be able to absorb these costs and will probably disappear. So no, I'm not in any way falling for the dramatic Guardian headline and many others who have commented on this. I think there's some real foundational profitability to be gained in AI, but it's going to take some time. And that's my little soapbox moment for whether or not there's going to be boom and bust in the AI ecosystem.
That was so interesting. I have nothing to add. I put that topic on the table because I thought you would tell me exactly what was what, and you did. I do agree with you if completely lame woman type of way, because I don't have your understanding of the stock market. That why I don't think we're heading for a massive crash. I do personally think that there will be a correction there. It's not just the AI stock being overheated. There's a lot of macroeconomic indicators that are looking a bit dodgy at the moment, and I think it's just gone up a bit too much in a very scientific way. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I actually agree with you. I don't see a massive crash coming, despite what the Guardian thinks. But you explained it so much better than me. I loved it. Thank you. I did note.
Yeah.
Maureen is also a woman. I just need to point that out, Claire, just in case
really?
She's also a woman. When you said this is a woman kind of thing, but Maureen is also a woman. So, and clear evidence there that it is possible to be both a woman and have brilliant business insight. What I really like...
I was comparing my lay woman status, not my
womanly
status, my lay woman status.
Oh, okay. So,
and I think Claire's being very modest.
I agree.
Is definitely
a
business-focused person, absolutely.
However, that was a quite brilliant analysis, because I was like hooked, and you could probably tell I sometimes drift off, but no, that the profitability lens, and let's not get into
so well.
Yeah, that's right. I've got tattoos on my eyelids. No, I never drift away. I listen to every syllable. Also, you had some little predictions in there, Maureen, which I really like as well. We can revisit those, particularly on the Palantir side, but also on the sort of consolidation and the not treating AI as one amorphous blob. I thought that was utterly brilliant. I agree with you, Claire. And I learned a lot again. Let's move on. Next is, and I think you can do the big reveal, if people don't know, Claire, as to what the next big thing from Netflix is. Basically, this would be, to me, I didn't think there was anything more to say on this particular syndicate. But anyway, apparently there is. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, you all think we're going to talk about K-pop demon hunters, and we will. But actually, that's not what I'm talking about here. The next big thing for Netflix is Adam Sandler. It's the old big thing, the current big thing, and the future big thing. Now, this is, I wanted to bring this up because when Adam Sandler did his first deal with Netflix, that was in 2014, there was a lot of skepticism. And if we'd had the podcast back then, which obviously we didn't, I would have been one of the very, very strong skeptic. I'm like, what? Netflix, this cool new place is doing really interesting, creative new types of shows, doing a deal with Adam Sandler? What is this all about? Well, that deal, which was renewed and renewed and renewed, and the last version of the deal was worth $275 million. Thank you very much, Netflix, for Adam. He's doing quite well. Has actually been the most successful deal ever for Netflix. It has been an absolute, every single movie that Adam Sandler's put through on Netflix, while quite often ripped apart by the critics, I have to say, has been a huge success on the platform. And just recently, this last week, his new movie, Happy Gilmore 2, was the biggest launch. The biggest launch ever on Netflix, and it amassed 46.7 million views in its opening 3 days. In total, Sandler's Netflix movies have collectively accumulated over 61 billion minutes of viewing time since 2018. So I'm sorry, I got it wrong. I should eat my hat. This was the best deal that Netflix could do. And this goes back, I'm sorry again, A24, to the 4-quadrant strategy, which is very much a true a valid strategy for Netflix, and to the another strategy that we've talked about, which is the reruns, the rewatch strategy. Have content on there that people don't mind watching over and over and over again, and that's what's happening with the Adam Sandler movies. They may not be brilliant, but they are very much predictable. You know what you're getting. You know exactly it's like going to McDonald's or drinking a Heineken. You know what it's going to be, exactly what it says on the tin. You will have exactly the experience that you're expecting, and it will be quite nice. And there's a very strong place for that on streaming platforms, as there is on any content platform. And Adam Sandler is filling it brilliantly. So that was my little Adam Sandler eulogy. But I also want to talk briefly about K-pop Demon Hunters, because that's a Sony animated musical urban fantasy film, which was distributed on Netflix, but also was released theatrically. And it is the biggest theatrical release for Netflix ever. There's been a lot of discourse. We talked about Netflix. We talked about Sony being an arms dealer. The fact that this huge animated franchise is launched and they don't really have the power to do all the merchandise and circle of exploitation that others like Disney might have has been discussed. But overall, a very, very good showing, and a new franchise really that's been created by both Sony and Netflix, and for Netflix, a very satisfying box office success. Maureen, what did you think? Did you watch it?
No, and I've been looking at for the K-pop. I've been looking more at the TikTok sort of user-generated content for the music, because of course the music is in the, is it number one, or is it the top 100 Billboard as well? So it's doing extraordinarily well. But I think now this Netflix is a masterclass in reading your own data and betting on consistency over cachet. So you absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to sort of rehash everything you've sort of just said, Claire, which I think is absolutely on point about Netflix finding through data reliably watched by all groups in Adam Sandler's films. So I think it's amazing. They're just ignoring the critics and just going with the data and saying people are watching this time and time and time and time again and besting it. It's a kind of like a Netflix Moneyball moment, which I think is wonderful. But you're absolutely right as well. It was so interesting that we did talk on the last episode about the arms dealer strategy and Sony as being a sort of the neutral player, and how that clearly worked in 2020, where they didn't burn the cash and they stayed neutral. However, this has come back to bite them in the bottom because of this big success, which I think it was around 100 million. I think it was $100 million they spent on creating the K-pop Demon Hunters. And I think that their return is probably going to be something in the tune of 20 million. So I think that's with no back end, and I think no streaming upside.
They're going to do it. We'll build
They
into
get
a
some money
franchise.
on
They'll
the
do a
sequels.
second one.
They will,
and it will be distributed differently, etc.
But what I was agree. What I also picked up was there's no evidence yet that the K-pop phenomenon has created this halo. Maybe we can discuss this in another deep dive. The halo effect that these big these big franchises or these films they have on a platform like Netflix. They get like 300 million minutes and the like, but do they actually have the halo effect, which is what expected in order to stop churn from the platform? So from Netflix, that's what Netflix I think will be expecting. But no, I think it's wonderful. I love Adam Sandler, and I think good for him. This is definitely, in my view, a Moneyball moment. Brilliant.
Excellent. So the whole K-pop thing, there's a whole K everything, KX, K-movies, K-drama. I met someone recently who I was sort of coaching presentation skills for, and he was obsessed with K-drama for some reason and tried to get me into it. So there's a KX deep dive. I don't know.
Well, there's also, and Claire, maybe you picked this up as well, that they've promoted this and put it out onto the platform. The timing is superb because I think BTS has come back. There's some albums of the K-pop sort of community that have been released as well in the last sort of month or two. So I think their timing has been spectacular. This is truly, I think, a masterclass. This is what people should be looking at as a masterclass, not arms dealer stuff.
Nice one. Great conclusion. Okay, let's move on. So, Claire, you've been up in Edinburgh, I notice, and you're reporting from the castle right now. But it's your friend Maureen who's going to report in Edinburgh. The reason I know this because you're frantically.
It's a pretty good accent.
Pretty good accent.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad that Maureen gets to do the accent.
I cannot, even though my daddy is Scottish, I cannot do the Scottish accent.
I picked up some wee signals there that it was actually you, Maureen.
Signals. It's me, Maureen. That's
right,
Irish.
Maureen. How's things up in Edinburgh? How was the flight from New York?
From New York.
Well, you were at. The idea was.
Oh yes, sorry.
Of course. It's non-stop in the life of a roving reporter.
Exactly. Goodness me, I got there in no time. I did the red eye. So there's one thing I want to pick up on from the Edinburgh TV Festival, not the Fringe, but the festival. The Fringe I would love to have gone to, but didn't have the time because I was covering the festival, the TV festival bit, but which in itself is Fringe, for actually. Sorry. So I'm going to pick up on one thing, which was Wayne Garvey was jumping on his soapbox, which I think appropriately so. Oliver, just so you know, the reason that everyone runs up to Edinburgh at the end of August is not for the Fringe Festival. Well, there's actually
some people do.
Some people do. There's like a TV festival that people basically is the bellwether of how's the TV industry, the UK TV industry in particular, how does it feel, and what's it focusing on, and what should it be thinking about in the next year or two? So it tends to be either sad or more sad. Or sometimes upbeat, and this year
upbeat in a few years.
This year they were whinging again. Sorry, I wasn't there. I would have helped them out on the topic of AI and got them smiling about that, but I didn't go up. Anyway, sorry. Get back to the story. Sorry, Oliver. I must get back to the story. Creator economy. So industrialization of the creator economy, as I'm now calling it. Wayne Garvey from Sony Pictures gave a really strong talk about how creators aren't on the periphery anymore. They're central to how TV needs to think about audiences. And you can see why. The Bundesliga Liga just last week gave a slice of the UK broadcast rights to Mark Goldbridge, who's a YouTuber, which is extraordinary if you think about it. So a top European football league effectively saying a creator channel deserves the same access as traditional broadcasters. I'm not a footballer fan or football fan, but I know Claire and Oliver, you are, so you might want to sort of comment on that and think about that. And then, of course, you've got Sidemen, who now pours in more views on YouTube than any mainstream Saturday night show. And as we all know as well, they were able to fill up Wembley Stadium for a charity football match too. So I think, of course, it's pretty important. I think it's an important thing to say at the festival. I'm sure people are looking at this very, very closely in terms of the broadcasters and the like. But that was one theme that clearly people have been talking about with some degree of, let's say, curiosity. But the other thing which I think they missed was the topic of AI. And Netflix last week announced the guidelines for any show that they'll commission around disclosure of the use of AI. So absolutely fine for pre-visualization or moon boards and whatnot. And then, some clarity and transparency as to other use. Now, I think the broadcasters up there should have been singing and dancing and celebrating the fact that now there's some guidelines, now there's some clarity. But they didn't say a word, apparently, about AI, and they were all just sort of shy, and it was cautious, sort of whispers about what to do with AI. So anyway, Claire, I don't know what you picked up, but creator economy and a little bit of no talking about AI was the mood of the day in Edinburgh.
Yeah, I thought actually it was fairly positive. Sometimes it just feels quite nostalgic and it used to be so much better and all of that. And I think there was a lot of discussion about collaboration, working, and commissioning new commissioning trends, etc. I noted suddenly some passionate defense of public broadcasting. The McTaggart lecture, which is the big moment, the opening moment of the festival, which was delivered by James Harding, the journalist and the founder of Tortoise Media, was a passionate defense of the BBC, which is always useful. I'm always in favor of defending the BBC. There was also Channel 4 was very vocal, as they tend to be, and accused Netflix of being TV tourists. And I think they win the catchphrase of the festival. There's always one, because they said Channel 4 and the BBC and basically UK broadcasters would nurture those talents, and then Netflix would come in with the big money and steal them from under them, and specifically referring to adolescents in this spirit. I mean, those are all true, and those were perhaps the things that the media picked up. But I think the general feel was was one of sort of bit more positive entrepreneurial spirit, because last year was very depressing, and I think this year is still, nobody will deny that it's a tough time for the industry, but it felt a little bit more positive. But yes, no talk of AI. Definitely true.
Well, you are looking at a performer from The Fringe in 1992 at Edinburgh.
Oh my God!
Yes, that's right. A performer who is described as trying quite hard by the Scotsman. So you can't buy that kind of review. So yeah, it was.
And look where that got you. Oliver.
Exactly.
It was all worth it.
It's right. This man will no doubt make a management consultant one day, said the Scotsman. I don't really use that on my CV anymore. That was great. Lovely roundup. Glad you enjoyed Edinburgh together, and I hope you had time to enjoy the spectacular hospitality of our Scottish cousins. But that brings us to the end of In the News. And so we go on. Podmojis round now. We start with Maureen with this, good Lord, that's an interesting story. Threads, which I have a log on for but never use. But apparently 400 million other people do, Maureen.
I know, it's staggering, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this was quietly told to us by not only, by not Mark Zuckerberg, but by his little lieutenant, Adam Mosseri. And Adam Mosseri, you ask, who is Adam Mosseri? Well, Adam Mosseri is head of Instagram. And it's amazing, actually. They hit 400 million monthly active users, which is on par with Twitter or X, which is now it's called X, but no one calls it X. So what's interesting is really this milestone was not celebrated. It was just sort of dropped into the ether very, very quietly. And now Adam is effectively the public face of Threads. He's known for usually being unusually open, posting product updates, answering questions directly. But he's really, you would have expected this to be a big stage moment, like Zuckerberg would have sort of taken to the stage and shared those stats, but didn't. So I think the question is whether Threads, with that number and that milestone, really can scale, and if there's anything else there. I mean, I don't know if it's a cultural influence or not that Twitter once was and had. It's just a kind of, shared this huge number. So I'm kind of like, yeah, that's great, but what next? And who's following? And really, will you be a cultural influence or not? So mine's a bit sort of flat. It's sort of, really? 400 million is a lot, but it's a flat line.
A flat line.
It's a flat.
Yeah,
that's my flat.
I accept that. So hang on, 7 points for that. Come on. Lovely, Claire.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you on this one. It was only launched 2 years ago. Can you believe that? In July 2023? That's kind of crazy. And also, it's not the only stat we have. We know engagement on Thread is better quality and higher than Twitter. It actually outperforms, or X, whatever. It outperforms X on every single metric these days. And yet, I feel the same. It doesn't have the resonance. It doesn't. It's because of the way it's built. It doesn't get that sort of. You don't get Twitter moments. And I'm always curious when I see that some serious and respectable people still post on, and we should call it X, still post on X. It still remains the platform of reference to post new information. That or Instagram, as we've found out from our friend Tay Tay. And can we say congratulations to Taylor?
It's wonderful news, isn't it?
Engaged.
Wonderful news.
We're very happy about her.
Superb.
She announced it on Instagram. She didn't announce it on Threads. I'm a bit with it, like you. I'm like, well, first of all, who are these people? And also, okay, so what? So I've got a so what emoji. I'm going with my French.
That one.
Dubitative
Yeah.
picture.
Oh, what's the phrase? What's the French phrase?
Dubitative.
I'm doing my Duolingo in French, and my accent's coming on. They say,
you can tell the owl that I said that.
Yeah, it's a little cute owl. In fact, I haven't done it today, so I'm going to lose my streak. I've got Duolingo anxiety.
We should do a piece on Duolingo at some point.
Yes,
we
did talk about it once. Yeah,
we did once. We should do that.
VV clever, and that AI interface. I'm going to try it. I think it's going to be amazing. But anyway, sorry, we're losing 7 points for Claire there. 400 million. That already is scalable. So let's go on to the next one. It's Claire to start. Oh golly, this can't be true, surely. So the news story is Netflix are finding your favorite show based on your star sign. Now I'm a Taurus, so we're naturally skeptical.
Okay, I was going to ask, what are you, Taurus? Let me tell you what you should be watching. I've got it up there. Taurus, you should be watching Below Deck.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Yeah,
Hate it.
Nona, and he's like, yeah, definitely want to watch that. Nona's, Vanderpump Rules, Bridesmaids, and why Taurus is the life of the party. That's you, and that's how it's defined. What about you, Maureen? What are you?
I'm Cancer.
Oh, like me? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Okay, we should be talking about this separately. So Cancers will cry if they want to, and so we watch Gilmore Girls, Bridgerton. It's all a bit girly. Ginny and Georgia, the Sweet Magnolias. Well, fair enough. One Day, Dead Poet Society. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of that. Walk, The Queen's Gambit. So anyway, what is it? It's obviously a great media story, and thank you to The Guardian for reporting on it. It's obviously a gimmick. It's why not surface content, or you can see how it works. You just put a couple of adjectives per star sign, and it will automatically spit out content. Apparently, you don't want to be. There's one that gets Aquarius, I think, just gets whatever everybody doesn't want. It's not as good, yeah, I mean, it's a cute little story. You can go to Netflix and you can choose your star sign, and it will tell you what to watch. Looking at the content that I'm being served on your Zodiac watch list on Netflix, I can see that it's really quite heavily female skewed, which I think is probably correct considering the general people who read their horoscope. So, I think it's a cute, different little Discovery hub, and everybody's trying to find new ways of doing discovery. So good on the Netflix marketing team for coming up with that. I like it. Thumbs up from me.
Thumbs
That's
up.
my Podmoji.
Thumbs up from Claire. Maureen.
I think it's wonderful. This is I mean, I can't believe Claire got it from the Guardian. I thought it was one of her own stories, which she sort of,
actually invent stories.
Well, you used to invent. You were head of drama,
That's true.
Fremantle. I think this is a clever. I think it's silly, of course. Of course, that's a caveat. I think it's a clever way of making the browsing experience more playful and personal.
Yeah.
And so my Podmoji is
lobster, of course. Everyone knows that as a sign of positivity. Or screaming in boiling water.
I don't have a crab, so I thought the only thing I've got in my house
closest,
is the closest. I got this.
Any crustacean will do.
Took this to a party one time when I was a surrealist party. I had an apple on my shoulder and I had this as a telephone.
Yeah, no, that's quite good. Yeah,
quite
no,
good,
lobster, very good.
Anyway.
But
yeah, I think it's wonderful. I think it's a wonderful story.
It just reminds me of when you were talking about Happy Gilmore before, Claire, and you were apologising for a prediction that you would have probably made 10 years ago, which I thought was very polite.
I'm very polite.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on. The last Podmoji it's all about rebranding. Now, everyone loves a rebrand, particularly ones that are catastrophic, because we can always laugh at them. But this one, Maureen, tell us all about it and Podmojize if you will. It's MSNBC being rebranded, an exciting new name.
So, I mean, Oliver, you're absolutely right. Rebranding can be really fun, but rebranding in media is bloody dangerous. Excuse my French. Right. It's a dangerous game, and MSNBC has just fallen for that trap. So they're changing their name to MS Now, which is part of the spin-off as NBC. I think we may have spoken about this in previous episodes. One Reddit user that I picked up, or which I think Claire and I know about, thought it was Microsoft Office, and then someone else said it sounds like you're demanding multiple sclerosis immediately. I mean, it's so bad. Yeah. So anyway, when I saw this and I heard it, it made me think of T.S. Eliot and Eliot's famous riff on cats and their names. So he said that cats have 3 names: the one the family uses every day, the more dignified official name, and then the mysterious, sublime, ineffable name only the cat itself knows. So audiences treat brands a bit like that, in my view. There's a name that you try to give them, there's a name they insist on using, and then there's the name, the unspoken emotional meaning that actually attached to it. And they spend millions and millions and millions on rebranding. But look, even on this episode, people will still call Twitter and not X. So,
we're really bad.
So I think why they are dropping NBC is such a risk. I mean, that peacock is so iconic.
But they have to. That's the problem. I think they have to get rid of NBC and the peacock. That's why it got there. But I agree with you. But I think they weren't given. I think what they've done is not great. But I suspect they didn't have it because they're separating, aren't they? They're going to Versant.
Yeah, Versant, and so they do. But I mean, come on, MS Now, really? And as Eliott might have put it, you can't just rename the cat and expect it to answer to you.
Well, the cat never answers even when with this. I have to say that the more dignified name that my cat has is Sir Meow de Mortimer.
That's wonderful.
But he doesn't answer to that or to any other name. So, yes.
Well, we did get a Podmoji actually off Maureen. Another crustacean?
It was like, this is so frustrating.
Oh, you've got the vapors.
Have to rename it.
Have you got the vapors, Maureen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is.
Well, she is a Cancer. We do get quite highly emotional. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about MSNBC is nobody liked the name MSNBC in the first place. Just that now it's been 30 years, so we're just used to it. But it was ridiculed when it was launched for being a terrible name. So it's, and for many, many years afterwards, and now everybody's upset that it's not the same name anymore. So there is that element, and they do have to get rid of the NBC. They don't have a choice, I think. They have to drop the name, and they have to drop the peacock because they're separating as part of the whole, split. But what they've done. And if you Google the logo that they've created, which for some reason looks like the Republican Party logo, just looks, the whole thing just looks ugly and done on MS Paint to talk about another MS. So I'm not super impressed with the results. And it's going to be a painful rebrand because rebrands are always painful, and this one is not a good one. So I don't like it, but I think they had to do it. I don't know what that means in terms of Podmoji.
Tricky, isn't it? Maybe the similar one. I can't remember the French word, but the one you did before.
Can I use a second one?
Oh, yes.
Can you use it
no
a
way
second time? It is so good. I'm going with the
mark you
dubitative.
down, but yes, you can get 3.5 points.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. I do need to expand my
répertoire.
My répertoire. Very good. Very good. I like that.
Well, that's marvellous. What a brilliant game that was.
So there we go. MS now. But remember how everybody hated MSNBC as a brand when it launched. So, it's not easy anyway.
Did it look like MSBC or something like that, which is actually a bank, I think?
Yeah, there was lots. It was not a happy birth back then for those of us who were alive 30 years ago.
Alive? I was performing in Edinburgh.
At some point. Well, fair enough. Yes, you were.
So, it's like Aberdeen, didn't they? Aberdeen in the UK, the Building Society rebranded without their vowels, so they became Aberdeen.
Yeah, well, there is a whole trend of dropping the vowels. Talk to the zone,
sort of thing. And then you've got Cracker Barrel. They got rid of the oldie worldy guy, and Cracker Barrel, the share price tanked, and Cracker Barrel man is back. Corporate rebrands, very, very dodgy, and as you say, Maureen, in media, even more difficult. It's a funny thing, branding, isn't it? It's like it doesn't exist, and yet it does. Anyhow, that's the point. So it's a draw. Yep, it's a draw. It's 101 points each today, so it's a draw. Well done. Congratulations. You're both first. That is the end of the Podmojis. That is the end of the podcast. Oh, golly, number 79. It was a great one. Content rich, as always, but also quoting T.S. Eliot. So I think that is a podcast that I think you should and could subscribe to. Not only media savvy, but literate as well, and multilingual. Thank you so much for joining us. Maureen, bye-bye for now.
Bye, Oliver. Bye, Claire.
And Claire, goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
And that is it. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.